What is going on, all you Pokemon collecting maniacs out there? This is Ryan, the PikaPikaPaPa, and here we are with our monthly video on the top 10 cards that exchanged hands the most on TCG Player. Now, we have been doing this video every single month in 2023, and every month we walk away with some really cool learnings. And what's really fascinating is that we have been doing this long enough that we are starting to identify different trends and patterns, right? When you do something over and over again, repetition breeds proficiency, and we're starting to learn a lot. And in this video, there's all kinds of really cool learnings and some awesome things that we're gonna be able to apply to the cards that are on this list to help us level up our Pokemon collecting and investing game a little bit, right? Like, that's what this channel is all about. So not only are we gonna look at the cool cardboard that's on here, but I have a couple other things as well. So obviously we're gonna look at the cards, we're gonna look at their card prices, but I also include the booster box or elite trainer box that card comes from, because it's really interesting to see how the sealed product moves in conjunction with the single card. And I also include this cool little star system, right? We've been doing this for a long time, so it's cool to see how many months in a row a card has been on this list. Now, the rule is this: if you're on it for 3 months and then you fall off and you pop back on in month number 5, you start all over again at 0, right? No continuation here. So the number of stars that you see is indicative of how many consecutive months the card has been on this list. And this is really fun. Like, this is awesome stuff. And again, I always say this, whenever I can get information directly from TCG Player, right? Like, when you think about the big marketplaces for buying and selling Pokemon cards, obviously eBay is number 1, but TCG Player is a close second. So I consider this like macro level, hobby level information. And I'm telling you right now, the number 1 card on this list, there's something about that card we've only seen one other time this entire year. We're starting to see some support lines form for some of these big chase cards, and some cards that have been kicking around the block a little bit. Guess what? They're popping back on this list. So lots and lots of fun stuff here in this list, and I can't wait to share it with you right now. Now, we always start off with not just what's on the list, but what has fallen off the list. And there it is, my Squirtle from 151. If you follow this channel at all, you know that I love that card. I think it's adorable. It was on the list last month at number 8, and it has fallen off. And then the other cool thing is, ever since Paldea Evolved has come out, there has been some version of that Iono card on this list, right? We all know the playability. Iono is also a really cool trainer, so there was lots of things going in the Iono camp, but guess what? It has finally fallen off. Now, speaking of that, the Charizard from Obsidian Flames, that gold card, right? People either love it or they hate it. There doesn't seem to be any in between. That card is off the list. You got Erica's Invitation, another trainer that is coming off, and I will say this, we've talked about this a lot. I think a lot of the English trainers got really hot there for a while. I think a lot of people felt that the English trainers were going to follow the same path as the Japanese trainers, but the pull rates for Japanese is much lower. And I just think the culture of Japan, they really enjoy those full art trainers. So the prices didn't quite correlate, and the prices here in the US are starting to come back down, and we're not seeing these big trainers, these full art trainers, these special illustration rare trainers stay on this list as long as they have in the past. And then Battle VIP Pass, a card driven by playability, was on last month. It fell off. And then Mew EX, obviously that was a card driven by playability too. And those are off. Back-to-back months with 6 cards off, but the exciting thing is we got 6 new cards on this list. So let's get after it right now. Looking at this one, coming in at number 10 was the Alakazam from 151. Now, I do think that Alakazam was hyped up a little bit because of the return of Kadabra, right? Kadabra was out of Pokemon sets basically forever, and then it came back in Pokemon 151, which I think gave Alakazam a shot in the arm and a lot of collector interest. Now, you'll see it spiked up when it first came out, but it has been able to hold its water. It's really been able to hold that price point in the, the mid $30 range, which is really cool for a card like this. Like, at the end of the day, Alakazam's an awesome card. It didn't need Kadabra to pump it up, but it did, and so it's been holding its price. Really excited to see this one come in at number 10. Now, the other thing that I want to see, if you look at the ETB price to the left for the Pokemon 151, look at it. It's basically at the same price it was 3 months ago. So 3 months ago, it was right at almost at MSRP, right? $51. Then it popped up for a little bit. Then we've had those restocks, and now it's come back down. So in the end of the day, I think Pokemon 151 is going to be an awesome set with a lot of long-term upside. So if you want to get some ETBs, it looks like now is the time to get back in. Coming in at number 9, and this is one of the cards where we're going to be able to apply a lot of our learnings from the past versions of this video to this one right here. So The Giratina, you all know, and I'm not going to beat the dead horse, you know the Giratina card is one of my absolute favorite ones, and I believe in 5-10 years from now, when we look at the Sword and Shield set and we look at the most valuable singles, I think this Giratina card is going to end up in the top 10. Now, this card has been off the list for 3 months, but it's back on again. Now, as much as I love this card, when it was on the list all those months prior to, I kept saying, as much as I love it, I'm not paying over $300 for an ultra modern single. It's just not going to happen. It just didn't make sense to me, and I said, I love the card, I believe in its long-term prospects, but I think $300 is too much to get in. Now, the whole market has started to come down and correct a little bit, and this Giratina has done the same thing. So as the market's been correcting, it hasn't been on this top 10 list, right? But now it pops on here again. Now, why might that be? Well, because the price has been coming down, and the market is probably saying, listen, 230 bucks, I wasn't too hot on it at 300, 320, I wasn't hot on it at 280 or 260, but at $230, it's probably getting a lot of collector interest, so that's why it's now on the list for the most exchanged cards on TCG Player, because at $230, people are buying in, people are buying the card, right? That's why this video is so cool. So it'll be interesting to see if we start to see the price flatten out a little bit, because we know it's exchanging hands a lot on TCG Player. We know it's an awesome card. The price is down, you know, almost $100 compared to where it was 6, 8, 12 months ago. So really interesting to see where this card will end up, and it's fascinating to see it on the list now at number 9. Freaking love this card. Coming in at number 8 is the Iron Valiant EX, another card that is driven strictly by playability, although Iron Valiant gets a ton of love in Paradox Rift, right? I do love it when we see the cards, the Iron Valiant, the Roaring Moon, like when we see those from the headliners from the set where they come out and there's a lot of playability on it. The other cool thing about this card, and another reason why all these videos really tie into one another, is we have seen this card in the low supply, high demand video. Like, this card was tipped off to us 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago, right when it was coming out, because we knew that, hey, listen, TCG Player sent us the information and said, listen, this card is in low supply but high demand. So you'll see the price has been coming down. Now, that's nothing new, right? That's what happens when new sets come out. We call it the Pokemon pop and flop here. But we knew that this card was going to come down in price. We knew it was an opportunity to sell it. So I think that's a really cool thing. Matter of fact, I'm going to link that high demand, low supply video here at the end of this video, so you guys can check it out if you want. It is a great selling tool. It gives us all kinds of insight into TCG Player, because they're raising their hand saying, hey, listen, a lot of people want this card and we don't have enough of them, so please list it with us. Love seeing this Iron Valiant coming in at number 8. Now, speaking of cards that I love, outside of the Squirtle in 151, this Charmander is my second favorite card, strictly from an adorability standpoint, right? Like, I love this guy. The big brother Charizard always gets the love. This one's been on the list 2 months in a row. He's just sitting down there in the valley looking up. Who knows what he's staring at, but he sure seems to be inquisitive as to whatever he's looking at. Now, I love the fact that it came out, the price has gone up, it's holding relatively steady, coming in at number 7 on this list, and obviously I'm not the only one. A lot of people are in love with this Charmander card too. So really cool to see it coming in at number 7. Now, Iron Valiant EX. Listen, love to see this one on the list. This is obviously a special illustration, rare variant. But when the set first came out, Roaring Moon was the big chase card, right? When Paradox Rift came out, Roaring Moon was the one that was going for over $100, and Iron Valiant was kind of in the $50 range. Well, look what happened. It came up, it popped up. It went from, you know, the mid 50s all the way up to as high as $70, which was interesting. I was kind of excited to see Iron Valiant, you know, get some love and kind of have its time in the sun. But you can see by the graph right there, it's starting to come down a little bit. And again, I don't know if it's got the wherewithal to be, you know, a $50 card for the long run. I wouldn't be surprised if we continue to see this fall like we typically see, you know, with new sets when they come out. But I was really excited to see this card at least get some love right out of the gate and to go ahead and pop on up, versus what we typically see where the big chase cards, they just immediately start plummeting. So good for you, Iron Valiant. Even if you don't hold on to it, at least you showed some wherewithal and you popped up in the very beginning. Now, coming in at number 5 is Forest Seal Stone, and this is the card that just will not come off this list. I know I only have 3 stars. It was only off the list for 1 month. This card has been a staple on this list the entire year. The playability, the fact that the card was banned and then it wasn't banned, just everything about this card people have loved. People have been stacking their decks with it, right? So you'll see the price has been doing the same thing. It started down in like $4 at the beginning of the year. Now it's all the way up to $12, which is down compared. It was up at $14.50 not long ago. Now, I will say this card is now available in a League Battle deck. I think you get 2 of them in the League Battle deck, so not surprised to see this single card price start to come back down. But hey, there will be a point where the decks are going to be saturated. There's only so many of these that the true hardcore players absolutely need. But I will say this, Forest Seal Stone has had the longest run out of any card that is strictly driven by playability that I have ever seen on this list. So good for you, Forest Seal Stone. Super cool to see the card still on the list. Now, coming in Zapdos. This is another one. You know, I talk about Charmander and the Squirtle card and how I just think they're adorable. I just think this card is epic. Like, I think this artwork is awesome. Zapdos looks super hard in this. It came out really hot, but then it came back down, but it has been holding at that $40 price point. Every time you see it starts to dip back down, when it starts to get below the $40 mark, people start buying more of it, so the price goes up. So a lot of support right there at that $40 mark. Now, how long can these Pokemon 151 cards maintain these prices? I mean, we haven't seen a whole lot of price regression. A little bit now, but not as much as we see, not even close to as much as we typically see. So how long will it be able to hold on? I don't know, but I love this Zapdos card. The other thing about this too is I'm not the only one who loves it, right? When we look at our monthly grading report video, Zapdos is always on the top 10. It is always one of the most graded Pokemon out there. So when you have epic art from an epic set with one of the most popular Pokemon out there, like, it is hard to go wrong. So $40 might end up being a great steal for this card. So excited to see this one coming in at number 4. Now, the Moon Kitty, the Moonbreon, right? It was on this list for a while, and then it fell off, and this is the exact same pattern that I was referencing with the Giratina, right? So while it was on the list, the price was very, very strong, right? A lot of people were buying it, prices were going up, and then it kind of disappeared from the list for a little while, and the price started to come back down. Now, you see 2 stars next to it because it has been on this list for a couple of months. This is the 2nd month in a row. And what happened last month was we saw that it reached this all-time low, well, the 1-year all-time low, excuse me. You know, it got down in like the high $400 range, and the market said, listen, that is the price that we really want to get in at. So people started buying it, and that's why it popped on this list last month, and they're still buying it. You see the price spike up a little bit. Now, it is starting to come back down, so it's going to be really interesting to see if it drops back down into the high 4s, you know, the low 5s, and then if it pops back up again. But it does seem to have a whole lot of support right below that $500 mark, and that is why this type of video can be really, really cool for us. So that might be an indicator that that Giratina card that we talked about back in the very beginning, the number 9 ranked one, might be ready to pop off. We might be hitting that support line for it where the market just says, hey, listen, $235 is the price for this card. So we'll have to keep our finger on the pulse. None of us have a crystal ball, but it is really, really cool to see patterns and trends like this emerge while we're leveling up our Pokemon game. Now, I also track the PSA 10 population of the Moon Kitty. I think it's a really, really cool number to track. Now, last month it was sitting at 9,100 PSA 10s. That is a whole heck of a lot. But what is really interesting to me, when I pulled it this morning, it's at 9,421. And you might say, hey, that's still a whole heck of a lot. But that's only an increase of 321 PSA 10s month over month. Typically, we were seeing 500, 600, 700 month after month after month added to that PSA 10 population. This is by far and away the lowest increase in PSA 10 pop that we have seen since I started tracking it on this video. So that doesn't mean that there's not more to come. There absolutely is. It could have just been a slow grading month. Like, we know there's a ton of evolving skies out there to grip and rip, and I mean, they're in the heavy hitters boxes. You can still find them out in the wild, so there will be more. But for me, at least for 1 month, it was encouraging to see that overall PSA 10 population rate decrease in terms of the overall increase in volume. So really cool to see that. It's still going to end up in the 11, 12,000, you know, PSA 10 range. So can the market absorb it? We'll have to see. But epic card, love it on back-to-back months. And again, I love to see that support line. That is what this video is all about. Now, coming in at number 2, look at that, 3 stars for the Charizard from Obsidian Flames. Now, back to back, it was at number 1. This month, it drops down to number 2. Not a very far fall. As I said in the beginning of the video, you know, there's something unique about the number 1 card on this set that we've only seen one other time. But it's exciting for me to see the Zard with some staying power, right? Obsidian Flames is what it is. Not everybody's favorite set. I think there's too many Charizards in it, if I'm being completely honest. And to be completely honest, I think there's too many Charizards out there right now. I think the Pokemon Company International is giving us too much of a good thing, and I'm actually in the middle of putting together some data and a video around that right now, so stay tuned for that. But it is interesting to see that, hey, even though it's not everybody's favorite set, at least the big dog Charizard can remain on this at the number 2 for the second, you know, card that exchanged hands the most on TCG Player. We will have to see if it can remain in the top 5, but 3 months in a row, there you are, Mr. Charizard. Love it from Obsidian Flames. Now, this is interesting here. So the Roaring Moon from Paradox Rift. Only one other time have we seen a card that is driven into the number 1 slot simply by gameplay, right? We talked about Roaring Moon. Like, obviously, Roaring Moon is, you know, one of the headliners from the Paradox Rift set. But outside of the Iono card, after Paldea Evolved came out, this Roaring Moon card, we've only ever seen playability drive a card one other time, and that was it. So to me, you know, I guess it's okay. I like seeing the big chase cards at the number 1 slot, if I'm to be completely honest. We've seen a base set Charizard in there. We've obviously seen the Moonbreon there in the past. We've seen the special illustration rare Miriam. I just like seeing that. It makes me feel like the hobby is not unhealthy. The hobby is absolutely healthy, but I like to see that a lot of people are going after high dollar cards. So am I disappointed this card's at number 1? No, but am I hoping that next month we get one of those high dollar, just big chase cards in at number 1? I would absolutely love that. So this card's down at $6.25. Another card that was listed on our high demand, low supply video. And if you haven't checked that out, you absolutely should. So that's the end. These are the top 10 cards that exchanged hands at TCG Player last month. And as I said, I'm going to link that video up here if you guys want to check out the high demand, low supply video. We do these kinds of things all the time. So if you made it to the end and you enjoyed the content, hit that subscribe button. If you liked what you saw, give us a thumbs up. Questions or comments, drop them down below. And as always, you have an epic one. Thanks, everybody. Bye.